All right, welcome everyone. We'll give it a few minutes as everyone comes into the webinar. Thanks for joining us today. All right, get my screen shared. Okay. Looks like we've got about 15 attendees. Thanks again for being here. I'm going to check one thing on my end before we get started. I'm going to hit mute. Great. Okay. Now my key players are plugging in as well and joining. So we'll go ahead and get started here. It is 11:02. Thanks everyone for joining us. We have some exciting updates and news to share today, as we do in every meeting. But today this is our BEAD local government webinar, and we appreciate you making time to be with us. We'll have updates from different members of the team. And I can do quick introductions. My name is Kelly. Also on the screen, you see Aaron. Sorry, everybody, I'm going to introduce you for yourself. We've got Aaron Lorandos, our Digital Equity Program Manager, Jamie Garrett, our Senior Broadband Program Manager, and Sandeep just arrived as well, our State Broadband Director. All right, so today we're going to go over some updates on the challenge process and what's next. And I forgot Crystal. Crystal Severs is with us as well. She actually is at a conference and taking time out to be with us today. She's going to be sharing a lot of great details today. Thank you, Crystal. So you know the team already. And what we're going to do is jump in with Sandeep to talk about the timeline and where we are right now.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking your time and participating in the process. Really appreciate all of your help as a local government standpoint with the challenge process. My colleague Crystal will talk a little bit more in granular level about the challenge process. But we closed the challenge process, cleaned up the data, and submitted the data set to NTIA for their approval. We are currently going through the data evaluation process, and they will check all the challenges accepted here in the state, evaluate and provide their feedback and guidance on that before providing the final approval. As you probably know, we completed our BEAD 5-year action plan, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 1 was approved in February. That triggered the challenge process or start of the challenge process. And BEAD Volume 2 is still under review by NTIA. In the meanwhile, we are gearing up the subgrantee selection process. So from this month to until September or mid-October will be subgrantee preparation time. We are setting up meeting with the ISPs, local government who would like to apply for BEAD funding, walking them through, also working internally on the financial and engineering study to divide the whole state into multiple project area. If you are a local government interested in the project area, please reach out to us. Kelly can provide you more update, but we are hosting a in-person local government summit to unveil the tentative project area for the state. Here is the barcode. You can scan and sign up for this. We're looking forward to see you all in that project area discussion. Once the project area and financial and engineering study is done, we will be opening up in project area tentative project area, which is for market sounding. I want to repeat that that would be a tentative project area. It's not the final project area, just for the market sounding. The tentative date to open that is August 15th-ish. Once we open that, it will be open for 30 days or 45 days for public feedback. This process is not necessary by NTIA, but we want to make sure that we are respectful to our partner and taking your feedback in this process as usual. So please provide your feedback when we publish those project area. And once the feedbacks are all received from the ISPs, local government and tribal government, we might restructure or might not restructure the project area based on what kind of interest we are getting from internet service provider, and then open up the final sub-grantee selection process. During the final sub-grantee selection process, as usual, will be in quiet period. And so we highly encourage you to all reach out to us to set up a meeting, talk more about the project area in your jurisdiction. Having said that, I will hand it over to Kelly. And Kelly, if you want to provide more guidance on signing up for this local government event.
Sure. Couple things. One, thank you for the responses in the Q&A and for the chat. So the chat is disabled. If you have questions, put them into the Q&A and we will respond to them there. And then as far as the forum that's coming up at the end of this month, we have received feedback, number one, that this is bad timing. There are elections that's happening, and could it be possible for us to do virtual? So that is an option we're exploring right now. We will have more information on that, I would say, this week. But that QR code is there. You can sign up for it. And then also I can send an email to all of our attendees today with details on that. And like I said, once we have an update on how this meeting will take place, if it will be hybrid, I'll send that this week as well. All right. So thank you, Cindy, for sharing about the timeline and where we are. I am going to turn it over now to Crystal, who will share about the challenge process and what's next with True Up and all of the fun details. So thanks, Crystal, for being here. I will stop sharing so you can share.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let me go and share. And sorry, there's a door behind me that's making annoying noises, so I apologize in advance for that. And if it gets to be too much, I can move. But 1 second.
Okay, hold on. I think there's a question before we go.
Okay.
ISPs are not able to attend the July 31st local government event, correct? Correct. The 31st is for local government only. Thank you for bringing that up. We are hosting one on August 9th for ISPs specifically. So July 31st, local government only. Thank you, Crystal. And now it's back to you.
Okay. Well, first, I just want to take a moment to go back to our Commerce Authority BEAD page. So this is going to be at azcommerce.com/broadband. And the reason for this is there's some information on here about the challenge process, and we're hoping to update it with some more information about what's going on now and what we intend to do in the future. But real quick, I'm going to take you back to the Broadband Navigator. I've actually got it saved here. And so the reason for this is because we've had some questions about how long this map will be available. And this map, the AZ Broadband Navigator, will be available until next year, so February 2025. And so this is also still a good source for you to research the challenge results for individual locations. So I'm just going to do a real quick example here. Isaac, you might like this because I'm using Payson as an example. So all of this data is still primarily right now what was intended to be used for the challenge process. So right now we're still using version 3 of the Fabric. We still have broadband funding information on this map, and we still have challenge information on this map. So there's certain locations that you can still see, locations that have been challenged, what the status, what type of challenge it was, who the challenger was, and also whether or not it was rebutted or refuted. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is still available, and you can still check on the status of individual locations using the Broadband Navigator. Okay, So I'm going to go back to our ACA website. There's some helpful information still available on this page, but here is sort of the timeline we used during the challenge process, so everybody remembers, when you could start submitting challenges and what the rebuttal timeline was and how long our office would take for final determination. There's a few more materials that we're going to post here that I'm going to share with you now. So basically, I'll just kind of explain it, the timeline in a way that's not definitive. So if you think about when the challenge process occurred, we can kind of think of it as being during Q1 and Q2 of the year. So Q3 is when we're expecting to have NTIA's final approval on the results of the challenge process. But before that happens, so what we've already done is a process called post-challenge deduplication and post-challenge true-up. And I have some materials available just so that everybody understands what they're doing. But basically, part of the BEAD program commitment is that we cannot deploy BEAD funding to places that have already received or will receive federal, state, or local broadband funding that meet the BEAD requirements. So we've done a post-challenge deduplication, but we also plan to do another deduplication before we finalize the list of BEAD eligible locations. So let's see. All right, it's hard to see. Okay. So there's this really helpful link that NTIA shared. It's right here, and I've also shared it with Kelly. I don't know if you're able to drop it into the chat, but this is
Yes,
understanding.
I will do that.
Thank you so much. So basically, this is a pamphlet on understanding what the true-up process is. So during the challenge process, we used version 3 of the Fabric data, dated, I believe it was June of 2023, using BDC data. So, and that's what we use for the challenge process, right? But the FCC's maps are constantly being updated. And then twice a year, it goes through a major lift. And you can think of that as being updates to the fabric itself. So locations that may have not been on the map for whatever reason may now be, or continuously become added to the map. Likewise, you can have locations that should not be broadband serviceable locations removed from the map. So there's a couple of those examples that we've seen in mines. So for whatever reason, CostQuest believed that those were homes there, but we've identified them as being just like random shacks, part of a major mine. So basically, the fabric is being updated constantly, but we get we get the data published with those changes twice a year. So we happen to have just received version 4 of the Fabric data that was released around May. Fabric version 4 contains data updated as of December 2023. So what that means is we've used that data to help influence the final list of BEAD eligible locations that we've submitted to NTIA. However, the caveat is, if that location was challenged during the challenge process, we use the challenge results. We don't take at face value what the FCC says about this location or this updated location. We use our challenge results, which is, I believe, is a very good thing, because it means that you've done the work of challenging it, and that's the result that we take to move forward with BEAD eligible locations. So here's some information about the true-up process and what states are doing. And if what I said was too confusing, or if you need more information about that, here's a helpful pamphlet on basically the FCC's Fabric life cycle. And so it's got some dates here. So for example, we expect to see June of 2024 data towards the end of this year. And I say that because, so now that we've done a post-challenge deduplication and a post-challenge true-up, we've already scrubbed the data, sent that off to NTIA for final approval. However, before we start doing the subgrantee process, like Q4 of this year, we're going to try to make sure that the data is the most accurate data and that we're using this funding as best as we can. So we expect to do another deduplication process and hopefully a true-up process. Okay, so now I'm going to show you really quick some of the Fabric version 4 results. All right, 1 second. So basically, this is basically just the Fabric version 4 number of unserved and underserved households. I went ahead and converted it to a percentage because it's much easier to view it that way. So using Fabric version 4 data dated December 2023, you can see the number of unserved, underserved, and served locations per county. So I just want to reiterate here, this is before we apply the challenge results. So the challenge results will still affect this number. But it's very helpful to kind of visualize, all right, this is what's going on in my county. So now I'm going to talk to you about the challenge process. I don't want to call them results because we cannot tell you this is the final result of location without it being approved by NTIA. But based on the estimated number of challenges received by our office, I've created this chart, and hopefully everybody can see the challenge process chart. Okay, so it's categorized by challenge type. And so these are the number of challenges that we've received per county. Notice Apache is not in here. I double checked. I don't know that Apache County sent any challenges, or it's possible that it was grouped into another data set, but these are the estimated challenges received by county. It does not include CAIs right now because this was before that we did the proper geolocating for CAIs. But these are, think of them as estimates, and know that whether or not these challenges were accepted, they have to be approved by NTIA before we can tell you, okay, this is the final list of BEAD eligible locations. But it's pretty interesting. The results you can see per county, what types of challenges were more popular, like planned service challenges. So I think that's really important to know what's going on in your county. Okay, so these are kind of the results of the challenge process. Remember that the materials that we posted on our website, so our SOPs, we told people this is what information we need from a challenge. We strictly followed those guidelines. And those are the same guidelines. That SOP is what we sent to NTIA. And that's how they're going to be evaluating our final data set is, did our office follow our own procedures? What types of data? I mean, it was our office's discretion, but making sure that the process was as transparent as possible and that folks followed the process. And if they didn't, we gave them clear explanation of why a certain challenge was rejected and so forth. So all of that material is still available on our website. We don't have any plans to take it down anytime soon. So I highly encourage you, if you did have your challenges rejected, or maybe if you're trying to think about whether or not someone else's challenges were accepted, all of that material is still on our website. So post-challenge process, we will do one more final or a deduplication process. So I would think of this as an extenuation of phase 4, maybe even phase 5, but basically we did a final true up and another deduplication because it's very important that we do not deploy broadband funding where there's already funding. And I also want to point out this information here on how to request a cost plus license. This data doesn't end for being applicable at the challenge process. So next phase is our sub-grantee process. And if your county or government entity plans on participating in the BEAD sub-grantee process, you are able to request a cost plus license. So that
Crystal,
information is still available. Yeah.
What screen are you showing us right now? I want to make sure we're in the right place. Okay.
That's why. Okay. I was trying to show our ACA website, so let me go ahead and do that.
Thanks, Aaron. Aaron caught it.
There you go. So
okay, you're on the website. Got it. Thank you.
So this is the general timeline. I would think of basically the true up and the final deduplication, or it's post challenge deduplication and true up. This is an extension of the challenge process. It's what we did before we submitted our final list to NTIA for approval. But we plan to do it again just to scrub the data and make sure that it's always accurate before we release the final list to folks. So what we've heard, the unofficial wait time for NTIA's approval is between 30 and 60 days. So that will put us well into Q3 on the cusp of Q4. But basically, we're still on track to with our timeline. So once they approve it, we're able to take that final list, which is just going to say these are the list of BEAD eligible locations, and post it to our website. And then right here is where I wanted to highlight cost plus licenses. So if you do plan to participate in the BEAD sub-grantee process or partner with an ISP, this is how you request a license. Okay, that's all I plan to share today, unless anybody has any questions.
Yes, I definitely want to leave some space here for questions. You can put them in the chat. You might be able to raise your hand and I can unmute you. You can also put it in the Q&A. Just want to make sure all the options are available. Okay, there's one in the chat here from Brittany Reynolds. My understanding was that entities that were unserved or underserved did not need to challenge, correct?
That's completely correct. I know the example that I showed was an underserved location. Yes, it doesn't affect the final list of BEAD eligible locations. However, we're not going to we didn't toss out your challenges. We reviewed them, we considered them, and we kept them to submit to NTIA, but it did not end up influencing the final list of BEAD eligible locations. So we were trying to save you the legwork of submitting those challenges for locations that were already eligible, but we had we had many challenges submitted to us regardless, but that's completely fine. We didn't toss those. They were rolled up and packaged for NTIA.
Thanks, Crystal. And thank you, Brittany, for the question. I can see there's another one from Karen. Thank you for this. Says, what is the status of the RDOF waiver request? And I'm thinking Sandeep might have details on that. I'm trying to peek in his office.
Yeah, well, okay, great. He just unmuted himself.
Sorry, Kelly, I was drafting another email. What's the question once again?
The question is, what's the status of the RDOF waiver request?
So we are submitting the RDOF waiver request. As you are probably aware that there are multiple letter and communication went out to all the RDOF recipient here in Arizona. Some of them complied really, really well, actually beyond our expectation with the Arizona State Broadband Office, provided their network design, diagrams, financials, future build out. There are some provider who did not. So we are filing a waiver based on their surface areas and also communicating with all RDOF provider to make sure that they're building on the right time. So again, the RDOF waiver has to be based on the project area. So once the project area is finalized, we will submit the waiver to NTIA based on the project area or any federal funding. Just an FYI, multiple counties, I think County Supervisor Association, they had meeting with FCC, and NTI was present in that meeting as well. I think it's National Association of Counties, something like that. Please pardon me, I probably don't know the exact term. They met with FCC, and the chance of getting a waiver on RDOF, unless the RDOF provider sent us a letter that they are pulling out from that project, almost close to zero. So all the federal funding, if it was properly filed with the federal government at this point, none of the RDOF or any other ECAM project or Reconnect 4 or 5 will be waived by NTIA. So just wanted to make sure we will be doing our due diligence and submit a waiver, but the opportunity to get a waiver is very, very, very low. So just wanted to make sure you are all aware about that. And we are also thinking few mechanism on our side. There are some discussion going into federal level. There is still a $5 billion funding available on RDOF, which was never distributed. So there is a discussion going on into multiple nonprofits and policy agencies and also state broadband offices, if this money can be provided towards the RDOF funding, which was funded a couple of years ago, so that they can actually build without going through a hurdle process with the supply chain and increasing inflation. So there are other discussion going on. We will keep you posted as we go along in this process.
Thanks, Sandeep, for that update. And there's another question in the chat, this one from Isaac. Will the decision to use the latest FCC broadband map data be made before submitting our data, as it will change the results?
That's a great question. But I assume we've already done the true up process for version 3 to version 4, Fabric version 4. So we ran the challenge process using Fabric version 3. Version 4 was released in May, so basically data as of December 2023. So we've already performed the true-up process, but kept the challenge results. So basically, it doesn't matter what the FCC reported. If there was a challenge there, and the challenge was approved, so or it was sustained, so we kept the challenge results. Now, we do plan to do another true-up process before, basically subgrantee selection process. We want to make sure that we give the most accurate data to our BEAD subgrantees. But there are parts of so granted, NTIA has released much guidance or any guidance for the true-up process pre subgrantee selection, but basically states are allowed to do that. Our state did not explicitly say that we were going to do this in volume 1. However, we're basically still trying to get guidance and permission to do this from NTIA. So that is something that we're sitting on. So that's why I say we may do this. We're hoping that we can, because we do think the newest release of the Fabric data, so Fabric version 5, are going to have more cleaned data. So locations that should not be BSLs, which we've identified a lot, will be removed from the map, meaning funding can go to more appropriate places. And changes to some of the availability data. We know of, there's projects that are going to happen within the next couple, 6 months, that could help us deploy broadband where it's actually needed. So it kind of depends on whether or not NTIA will allow us to do this. If so, we're going to need guidance from them on what we can accept or exclude, because you've already done the challenge process. You've already done the work of identifying, inaccuracies in the FCC data. So if we're allowed to sort of cherry pick to help, I don't want to cherry pick is used badly usually, but basically so that we have the cleanest fabric data and that availability data that will have the best impact for our state using BEAD funding will be allowed. So there's two components. We're still waiting on a permission and guidance from NTIA.
Thanks, Crystal. There's a couple more questions in the chat. Sandeep, I think you might be answering some of these. First one is from Glenn. Thanks for the question. Glenn says, thank you for the information on RDOF. Could you please clarify what you are hoping unallocated $5 billion could be used for? And then there's a follow-up. I'll let you answer the first.
Yeah. No, Glenn, thank you so much for the question. It's a great question. So if you go and check the FCC report, you will see that RDOF's total allocation was probably close to $20 million. Please do not quote me on that. I might be wrong, but somewhere north of that. $5 billion of that is still not allocated. That means it was never spent. There was no plan. So FCC is planning to open up another round or trying to move that funding to some other reconnect program. So there is a discussion on the federal level right now to use that dollar towards any inflation adjustable cost on the existing RDOF project or any supply chain related cost on the RDOF project. Again, this is all discussion, this is all proposal, but I think that'd be a great discussion topic with NACO, and happy to chime in with additional advice on that as well.
And CSA as well? I didn't hear if you said that.
I did, yeah. So
okay.
Last week I had a Glenn, I had a good discussion with Craig, so he is aware, and this is a very new topic. Again, have no control. We want this RDOF project to get built out here in the state or all across the country. I think this is a great topic to discuss with NACO.
All right, thank you, Glenn, for the question. Next one is from Karen. If an RDOF recipient defaults prior to the final project area are approved, will these areas be including as eligible BSLs in the project area?
Great question, Karen. Yeah, that's actually true for any federal funding or any other tribal funding, anything. So suppose we are opening up the project area tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and we just got a letter today or a verbal notification from someone that they are defaulting. NTI gives us this unique ability to add those area or add those BSL right away into a project area. So yes, that is completely allowed. In fact, we are working with two of the USDA project which need a little bit of trimming. It was funded almost 3 years ago, and they cannot build some portion of the network because, again, the inflation and the supply chain issue. So we are working with them and USDA to make sure those areas are included in the BEAD. So there are a lot of work happening in the background.
Okay, she responded great. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A or the chat. And it's 11:34. We still have some time. I want to make sure that everyone's questions are being answered thoroughly and you're getting the information you need. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so I think you should be seeing the PowerPoint. It's not in slideshow yet, but we will do it from here. Okay, all right, is this what you're seeing? Am I sharing the right thing? Okay, thank you. I can see some heads nodding. All right, so we'll still wait for more questions if there are any, but I do want to remind everybody we are trying to continue our engagement tour and have meetings throughout the state. So in counties and with the tribal nations and communities, this July and August, we plan to be in eastern, western, southwest Arizona. We're kind of all over the place. We're trying to pick the hottest places and go visit all of them. Everything is hot. And then also our virtual webinars. So obviously you know about this one. You're here today. Thank you. But these are the other ones we're hosting. We've got tribal communities later today. Erin's got digital equity this week. And actually, Erin, I'll let you speak on that if you'd like to share a little more detail. And then we have for the internet service providers later this month on July 30th, we'll have the webinar for the ISPs. Erin, I'll toss it to you for a sec.
That's actually about all I was going to say. It's this afternoon, so please do come if your work intersects with the digital equity piece. We'll be providing some updates about our step in the process and what's coming next as well. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you. And I can see that Debbie Calhoun has her hand up, so I'm going to allow you to speak and unmute with your question.
Are you making the slide deck available?
Yes, absolutely. I can provide that today to all of today's participants for sure. Not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So make sure that I hit every topic that I wanted to. We have not yet set dates for next month. We are hoping to set those dates after we receive the BEAD Volume 2 approval, which we are hoping is something that is coming soon, and that will help inform our next steps and our conversations moving forward. So you won't see those dates probably for a week or two while we're waiting for that, and my fingers are crossed that we will hear some good news soon, but we are waiting for that, and then we will set up those meetings moving forward. If you do have questions, you can always reach out to us via phone or email. You can also reach out to me at my email here as well. I will plug that in the chat. Again, we're looking to visit with counties, visit with tribal nations and communities. So if you would like us to come visit you, please definitely reach out to me. We want to make sure that we're having conversations with everyone, and those don't have to be just one-time conversations. We can schedule virtual meetings as well, and make sure that you are getting the information you need and that we are accessible to provide those details. Other than that, unless Crystal, Jamie, or Sandeep or Erin have anything else to add, I think you all might be getting about 20 minutes back in your day, which is never unwanted.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay, then I guess that's it. We'll call it for today. Thanks everybody for joining. We'll stick on for another minute as people exit or if any extra questions come up. But thanks again. Have a great day, and we will be in touch.